Hello, everybody. I am
Oleksandra Wagner, and I am interviewing now. And please introduce yourself.
I'm Avner Eliyahu Romm. I am. I was born in Israel, and my father, as well as my younger brother, my brother who is slightly younger than me, were born in South Africa. So I can speak from the point of view of an Israeli or a South African in this case.
Okay, and you live in Krakow now.
Now I live in Krakow, yes.
So we are in Krakow, and where are we now?
We are now in the Stary Sklep, the old shop. That is a shop of Judaica and especially antiques, of Jewish antiques.
Okay, and you can see all these things, and
Yes.
can you buy them? Just any person can come and.
Any person can come and ask and buy, yes.
Okay, so it's.
Of course, they cost some money, it's not for free.
Now in Poland, you have to follow some events from Poland. It's
Yes.
hard not to know about things going on in Poland, and the most controversial is probably now Euro MP and formerly MP Grzegorz Braun and his and the scandal he made while he took fire extinguisher and intervened.
Extinguished the Chanukah candles.
Yes.
So people assume that since I'm a Jew and Grzegorz Braun extinguished Chanukah candles in the same, therefore I have to think negatively about him. But it's not true. Chanukah candles, it is not written anywhere that they should be lit in the same. So following Alexander the Great's conquests, the world was ruled basically by different Hellenic kingdoms. And there was the Seleucid kingdom, that there was one of the kings decreed under the influence of treacherous high priest, Kohen Gadol in the Jewish temple, who was either a Kohen, a priest, but not the family of the high priests, or not even a priest. In any case, there was a decree that Jews in Judea at least, should renounce the Jewish religion and publicly bow to idols at that time, Hellenic idols, and Hellenic gods, and also eat the sacrifices which are idolatry and not kosher. So there was Matityahu, he and his son from the Hashmonite family of priests. He started the rebellion, which is called the rebellion of the Maccabim. The Maccabim who created the Hashmonite kingdom. And their goal was, first of all, to resist those decrees against practicing Judaism. And the second thing is to purify the temple and its vessels and the use of its vessels from what was impurified by idolatry. And the third thing is obviously to have independence, to be some kind of self-determination Hashmonite kingdom.
Okay, and this holiday Chanukah is...
So Chanukah, when they entered the Holy Temple and they found only one little sealed jar of oil, and they lit the menorah, the candles, like
yes,
out
I
of
know
the
menorah
oil candles, yes. And obviously it wasn't the original menorah, but they made an alternative menorah, not as it should be, but as they could, and they lit the menorah, and the oil was enough for one day, but it was on, and it didn't extinguish itself for 8 days. And then, following that, there was new oil purified of idolatry.
Okay, so this holiday Chanukah was to memorize this event.
Yes.
And where it should be, you said it shouldn't be celebrated in same, and
there is no
Jews celebrate?
There is no purpose in celebrating it in the same, especially when there are no Jews who would light Hanukkah candles without publicizing themselves as lighting Hanukkah candles in the same. I mean, is there any member of the same who is Jewish?
I don't know.
Yes.
No, I don't know about anyone who declared him or herself as Jewish, but not everyone declares their religion.
Yes.
So I don't know.
Yes, so that is the thing, that it is organized by the Israeli ambassador, who is hostile to Poland because some Israelis or some Jews have the crazy idea that Poland owes Israel or owes Jews out of Poland something.
Before we start talking about politics, can
Yes.
you explain, because as you said that in Judaism there are different, in Christianity there are called denominations like Protestants,
Yes.
Catholics, Orthodox, and in Judaism you have also certain groups of believers which
Yes.
are different. Okay, can you
So-
tell more about this?
What is called the Orthodox Jews, their motto is there are certain rules you can break when it is dangerous, certain rules you can't break when it is dangerous, and you should never break them when it is about breaking Jewish religious rules. So then, obviously, according to the Orthodox, that is what Hanukkah is about.
So Orthodox is in other ways it's mainstream.
Yes.
And apart from mainstream, there are different
There
groups.
is the conservative and reform Jews, and especially the reform Jews. Then it means that there are circumstances. It goes according to circumstances, according to what people think today or what people may think tomorrow. So some rules, some religious rule, according to them, lost their values. So if they lost the values, one can say during that time of the decrees of the Seleucian kingdom, they also lost the values. So one could eat kosher meat and pretend they eat non-kosher meat for the idolatry.
So Reformed Jews were already in ancient times.
Yes. Yes, that's the word called reform.
They didn't use this name, but
yes,
in
yes.
fact they wanted to adjust some. More conservative, what about conservative Jews?
It is like let's say during the Hashmonite time they weren't called conservative, but they were those who went to the gymnastics, to the gymnasiums, and maybe they pretended they somehow party together with the other Greeks, the Hellenistic students who also offered sacrifices to different gods.
So you mean about Reformed Jews?
Well, there were also conservatives. I mean, that was the Hellenists. I mean, it's the moderate Hellenists and the extreme Hellenists.
I see.
Yes, so that is like the conservative and the reformed.
And nowadays, conservative Jews, what are their views?
Their views is that basically what the rabbis say, what the sages say, can be annulled today, even though the rabbis today are not as wise or as knowledgeable as the sages in the past. Or maybe they don't believe that the sages in the past were more knowledgeable than them. That I don't know, but in any case, that is the motto. And with that motto, some laws can be changed. I mean, especially decrees of rabbis for future generations can be changed. And according to the Reform, Jews basically, the Torah itself
can be changed. Okay, and
yes.
according to Orthodox Jews, Torah cannot be changed,
yes.
but rules given by certain rabbis can
be
change according.
Yes.
And what are basic rules about Orthodox Jews? Obviously, the rules which might be different from other religions, because I'm not talking about 10 Commands, which are common to all the Abrahamic religions, but something which is different.
Well, they actually interpreted the Torah as there are some rules that you can transgress when it is dangerous to observe them.
For example?
If if you are condemned for hard labor, or if there is a decree you have to do hard labor and it is Saturday, Shabbat, and you have to do it, not because you are Jewish and they try to make you not Jew, but because everybody has to do it, so yes, it
or
is allowed.
If there is threat to human life, for example,
Yes.
flood, and you have to
Yes.
liquidate the results of a flood or some catastrophe.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. And what about the dress code?
Dress code also, when it is about being a Jew or not being a Jew, if that is the purpose, and if the decree is about that, then even the dress code cannot be changed.
Mhm. Okay, so let's talk about politics.
Yes.
And you said that many Jewish people do not like Poland and Polish people, and what is the reason? Why is it so?
Well, the thing is, most Jews, or at least a high percentage of Jews, used to live in Poland. And the thing is, coming back to the Maccabees, the Hashmonite kingdom, the motto of the kingdom was, at that time, about Judea, about Israel, about the Holy Land. It was, this is our land, here we farm, here we are the peasants, here we are the free peasants, we harvest, we cultivate the land, and it used to belong to our ancestors. And before that, it was always the dream of coming to this land and harvesting our land. As contrary to the thing of the motto of Polin or Polania. That is why Grzegorz Braun says tu jest Polska, a nie Polin, which can be interpreted, which can be translated, this is Polska and not Poland, or more logically, this is Poland and not Polin. That means Polin can be
The Jewish name for
two,
it.
yes, and it can be two words like Polin. Here, spend the night, which is not a physical night. It means here stay for a while. Or Polania, here God decided to make his living place. So at a certain time, Jews had no alternative basically but to be in Poland, and they were treated relatively well, and eventually most Jews in the world lived in Poland. There was a certain time like that. But then there was the Cossack rebellions, the Ukrainian, in the 17th century, yes. And obviously the Cossacks are Cossacks. I mean, there is no set of rules, and even the leader of the Cossack was subjected to some decisions of his
You mean Khmelnytsky?
Khmelnytsky,
Yeah,
for
Khmelnytsky
example,
actually, he was of Polish descent, and it was a
Yes.
funny thing because Khmelnytsky represented Cossacks, but he was of Polish descent, and Wiśniowiecki was of Ukrainian descent, and he was on the Polish side, so it was some paradox.
Yes. So in any case, the leader of the Cossacks, whether Khmelnytsky or anybody before that, they were always subjected to the decisions of their people. Their people could have at any moment, if they failed during the battle, they could have arrested them and extradited them to the authorities to face terrible deaths. That is also, to accuse Khmelnytsky of the crimes of all the Cossacks is a little bit doubtful. I'm not sure it's was right or not right. And of course, much later to accuse Semyon Petliura of the crimes of his soldiers.
Yeah,
like,
he was killed.
Yes, he was assassinated, and assassinated by some Jew who decided that he gave secret orders to his soldiers to kill Jews, which that claim has no proof.
No proof.
And the fact is, the proven fact, and the documented fact, is that he wrote orders to his soldiers to protect Jews. So that is something else. I mean, some people argue about command responsibility. I think it is, if I'm not mistaken, but I'm not sure, but I think it is an invention of Goldstone. I mean, of the so-called International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia. And I mean, people like Goldstone from South Africa. I mean, they don't say that people like Zuma or Ramaphosa or those...
Who was Goldstone?
Goldstone was the chief prosecutor. He was a judge in South Africa, and he became chief prosecutor of that tribunal.
Mhm.
So people like Ramaphosa or Zuma or others obviously have command responsibility over black on white crimes in South Africa. I mean, racist crimes, racially motivated crimes of black people against white people.
Okay, can you tell more, because you spent quite a lot of time in South Africa.
In South Africa, yes.
So can you tell more about these farm killings, but not only farm killings, but
Yes.
generally crime?
So it is like that. South Africa and Africa in general, other than the northern part or the eastern part of Africa, it was an unknown land, but the place that today is South Africa, it was apparently not inhabited. I mean, it was inhabited by the, what were called
Khoisan.
Khoisan, yes.
Khoi.
These were the races which were divided into different tribes who lived in the Western Cape of today. Today's Western Cape and in what later became Southwest Africa or Namibia. They also lived there. And when the Dutch settlers, followed by Huguenot refugees from France, who were refugees. I mean, they were persecuted in France.
Yes, it was the time of religious wars, and in France and in other parts of Europe there were wars between Catholics and Protestants. And,
Yes.
they were Protestants, Calvinists,
Yes.
but in France they were called Huguenots.
Yes. So then some of those of them who escaped France, they came to South Africa, to the Dutch settlement in the Cape, in today's Cape Peninsula, around Cape Town, the whole peninsula, and further northeast and they also developed the place. So also at that time, the Dutch leaders, the leaders of the Dutch settlement there, they purchased the land. They didn't take it by force. I mean, maybe they took some of it by force, and at the time there was slavery and also other Africans, so to speak, were imported. There were slaves. Yes, slavery was a thing that existed in the past. The thing is that some people are sorry it existed in the past, but that is the reality.
Yeah.
Some people try to revive it.
But there was a kind of slavery in South Africa, but it was restricted that these slaves had to be released at the age of 25 as men, and women at the age of 22. But
Oh.
they were temporary. They worked just for food and accommodation, so they didn't get money, but then they had to be released.
Yes, I'm happy to hear that. I never heard it before, but that's a good point. In any case, later the British came and conquered, like they did in other places. And then the Dutch settlers and those who came together with them or after them, before the British, or those who sided with the Dutch settlers were called Afrikaners. Among the Afrikaners were those who conducted the Great Trek into the eastern and the northern parts of South Africa today, of today's South Africa. So they basically tried to, and they did, they negotiated with the different Bantu nations who came, I mean, when Francis Drake, Sir Francis Drake, made his voyage crossed the earth, actually, around the
world.
Yes. He landed in those parts of South Africa, I think, in the southeastern coast, and there was apparently nobody. He said, it's a nice land, magnificent land, and so did Thomas Cavendish. Yes, they said it's a nice land, and they didn't mention anybody living there. It's known that the Bantu nations came later, and they settled in a certain area of the southeastern South Africa, and yes, and but the Boers, the fur trekkers, those who conducted the Great Treks, settled in uninhabited areas, because there were many uninhabited areas, which they also bought, they purchased from the different kings and chiefs of the Bantus and paid them with goods. So that comes to the thing of Janusz Walus. I mean,
Okay, so we are moving to
yes,
20th century, late 20th century.
yes. So let's say like that. All right. So Jews lived in Poland, and Jews were settling in South Africa after the Boers, after the Afrikaners, mainly after. I mean, from a certain part of, since a certain part of the 19th century, I think. They came as immigrants, and before the Second World War, they also came as immigrants, as beggars, and a certain number, I think a very high percentage, were given the status of refugees and became citizens, and became actually white immigrants, therefore privileged people. So that is that. And Poland, in Poland there was the Second World War. Janusz Walus's uncle was Władysław Lenartowicz, who was an officer in Poland's Air Force during the Second World War. He was a fighter pilot. He later tried to escape the occupation to France and to Britain, actually to Britain, and to continue that war. Therefore he was arrested, and he became one of the first prisoners in Auschwitz, but I think it was not the first transport, but one of the 1940 transports, or maybe 1941, somewhere it is written, but I don't know what is actually accurate. I mean, yes, I mean, I interviewed his, Władysław Lenartowicz's son, who is, he told me he's generally, he knows, but he's not sure about the exact date.
I see.
That Władysław Lenartowicz was sent to Auschwitz. And in Auschwitz, Władysław Lenartowicz managed to save the life of a child born to a Jewish prisoner. So, the Bible says that, and the Bible tells stories that, according to which we learn that gratitude is something essential. So then I try to learn how many Jews contributed to Janusz Walus's campaign of being released from South African prison.
Okay, just to remind, Janusz Walus assassinated Chris Hani,
Yes.
and Chris Hani was a communist leader.
Yes, but leader of what in South Africa is called communists, which is actually a racist movement there.
And it was anti-apartheid movement because
Yes.
he was both a member of Communist Party and ANC, because
Yes.
it was not, you could be both. You could be the member of ANC and the member of Communist Party at the same time. And he was both, and he was also a member of Umkhonto weSizwe.
Yes,
Which
Umkhonto weSizwe was the military wing of the ANC. Yes.
And he emigrated from South Africa. Hani. Hani was, and he in 1990
yes.
he came back.
Yes.
Because then all these illegal organizations became legal.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So Clive Derby-Lewis was like the legal authority because he was leader of the Conservative Party. He was. It was opposition. It was like preparation for war. So according to that political system, Clive Derby-Lewis had the authority, or apparently had the authority, to say, all right, you may kill that person.
And both were arrested.
Both were arrested and imprisoned, and Clive Darby Lewis was on parole when he passed away, and Walus was completely free and returned to Poland, so that is a reason to celebrate, and Chanukah is also something to celebrate that as well. And now it's high time, if they were released, now it's really time for, I mean, I'm not in favor of assassinating people like the old Robert Kennedy, the late Robert Kennedy, but his assassin, he was a Palestinian, he felt humiliated. Of course, Palestinians have the same nationalist feeling as all people. I mean, it's common to say among the Israelis, among some Israelis, to say that there is no Palestinian nation. Well, practically there is. I mean, in a way there is, and they have nationalist feelings. So he felt humiliated, and I could never understand how can an American or an Australian politician, I mean, a politician of lands that were, of countries that were created on land that was forcefully taken from other people, be so-called anti-apartheid, which means basically anti-white rule in South Africa. And I could never understand how could people support Israel with passion and oppose white rule in South Africa with passion at the same time. I mean, Israel has its narrative, and South Africa, I mean, white South Africa used to have its narrative, or has its narrative, so it's also something. But in any case, punishments today are supposed to be to correct people, to change people, and I think the assassin of Robert Kennedy changed, I mean, Sirhan. And Robert Kennedy Jr., whom I respect and like, he is also in favor of granting parole or total amnesty. I'm not sure about it, but parole at least, he's for that. So I think it's really high time, and I think I have to mention that if I omit it, it would be painful for me.
Yes. I understand.
Yes.
So people should be released if they spent a long time in prison and
yes.
Now they are not dangerous.
Yes, exactly.
Obviously, serial killers must not be released because they still
yes, as long as they are dangerous.
Political assassins can
yes.
be released because now political situation is different, and
yes, exactly.
It's very, very unlikely or even impossible that that they repeat their crimes.
Exactly, yes.
Okay, so let's talk about art. I know you are interested in music, and can you tell us something about this?
I'm interested in creating music, singing music, I mean, in different singers. In the stories of different singers, but my idea of music is alright. I mean, there is music that you sing it or play it over and over and over and over again. I don't say don't play it. I mean, I sometimes play and sing music that is sung over and over and over and over again, but at the same time, if I sing something, there is something I want to say, something that is not said, and through the music I try to say. And that is how art is. That is what the shop is about.
Did you attend any musical school?
The conservatorium in Jerusalem, yes. I mean, I had a music teacher in Cape Town, Yes, when I was about 11 or 12 years old, or maybe earlier. Yes, at the age of 10, I think I started learning to play the organ and then the piano. Yes, which piano is a little bit more complicated. Yes, but yes, I even attended singing lessons. But in Jerusalem, I also used to have a teacher who, and also lessons in the conservatory. They used to have concerts occasionally, every certain season, yes.
Do you want to say something more
About
yourself, about anything which is important to you?
Well, so yes, I was fond of the song of Rabbi Ginsburg, Wake Up, for you are situated in a strong darkness, which is sung by the singer Ariel Silber, who is a close follower of Rabbi Ginsburg. So, I used it for the film I made, The Good, the Bad, and Mrs. Hani. Yes, so as I say, The Good, the Bad, and Mrs. Hani is a movie that I made for different reasons. First and foremost, to either have, to draw sympathy towards Janusz Walus and Clyde Darby-Lewis at that time, and or at least to, in the hope when they were in prison that they would somehow, that somehow this film would come into prison and reach them, and they could see and laugh. But also to promote like the songs of Mrs. Svetlana Rozhnatovich. And yes, I wrote a song about the songs of Svetlana Rozhnatovich. Actually, I wrote a song also about Mrs. Dzidzic and Mrs. Hani. So I have songs about the good, the bad, and Mrs. Hani. Yes.
I see. Okay, so I want to thank you for the interview and good luck with your activities.
Thank you. I mean, the song of Chanukah, the miracle of Chanukah, which actually happened on the Temple Mount, in the temple. So, yes, or outside the temple. So, ואחר כן באו בניך, ואחר כן באו בניך לדביר ביתך, ופינו את היכלך, ותיארו את מקדשך, והדליקו נרות בחצרות קודשך, אוי וקבו 8 ימי חנוכה, וקבו 8 ימי חנוכה, אלו להודות ולהלל לשמך הגדול. אי וקבו 8 ימי חנוכה, וקבו 8 ימי חנוכה, אלו להודות ולהלל לשמך הגדול. רבת את ריבם, דנת את דינם, נקמת את נקמתם, רבת את ריבם, דנת את דינם, נקמת את נקמתם. גיבורים ביד חלשים, רבים ביד מעטים, טמאים ביד טהורים, רשעים ביד צדיקים, ביד צדיקים. איי, וקבו 8 ימי חנוכה, וקבו 8 ימי חנוכה, אלו להודות ולהלל לשמך הגדול. אי וקבו 8 ימי חנוכה, וקבו 8 ימי חנוכה, אלו להודות ולהלל לשמך הגדול, אלו להודות ולהלל. This song was written by Yerachmiel Bigun in Miami. He has the choir of little Jewish boys in Miami.